In the last episode, we talked about the prevalence of sexy Overwatch fan art. Let's see what you had to say. So, it's the end of the year, and I'm gonna give myself a little bit of a present, which is to saltily respond to a negative comment and put it at the front of the comment response video. I wish I had a box to unwrap, as though this were something that I were giving to myself. Hold on. Lord Poison 671, who, I'm not gonna lie, I chose you because your name is what it is. I understand that you are frustrated maybe by the complexity that we treat cultural and media-related concepts with. You were in numerous company. I don't know that you were in good company, but there were certainly lots of your company. And what I would like to ask, the thing that I would like to know, and I think by saying that what I mean is, this is a rhetorical question, and I don't actually want to know, because I feel like I know what the answer is whether or not you feel similarly about science questions. Hypothetically speaking, if you were to watch a YouTube video about, say, why there are tides, and it was a minute long, and the host showed up and they said, it's because of some gravity that's related to the moon, and the tides get squeezed because of a kind of force that's like a hydraulic force, and that's why we have tides. Like, comment, subscribe. Would you feel a little cheated? Would you feel like maybe that's too simple an explanation, and that you would want to know more, and that you'd want to know why? And then why to the answer to that question? And then maybe why to the answer to that question? What I'm trying to say is that in this case, I am the tides and Tracer's butt is the moon. To everybody who noticed that we had called out Rule 34 in the top line of the description, Franklin Allen's comment is essentially why we didn't mention it, that, it is a law or rule of the internet that doesn't really describe why things happen, only makes a claim that things must, which is not the case, and sort of transgresses one of the things that we tend to like to make sure we're always doing on Idea Channel, which is giving people agency and not technology or media. So this is a great comment. Links to this one and all the others in the place where all the links are. Matthew Gluf writes a really great comment about the aspects of characters that people might want to know more about, and to kind of have that effective hermeneutics that we talked about, and gives it a really great name, which I might steal this. He calls it Unfinished Business, as a name for characters where a fan group can fill in some details. I really like that. Whirling Gibberish on the subreddit brings up a really good point that we didn't really get to in the episode, which is a lot of the popularity of Overwatch, and therefore the characters, and a thing that might explain why people would want to spend more time with them outside the game, is how positive the experience of playing the game itself is. And this is something that I've had a lot of conversations with friends about, how good of a job Blizzard did creating a game that at as many steps and interactions as possible reinforces the idea of cooperation and teamwork and working together and complimenting people and being positive. And I think that, yeah, this is a thing that we definitely overlooked, or didn't spend enough time on. That, yeah, there is a kind of positivity and optimism to be found in the details of the game that is uncommon when it comes to multiplayer online games especially. Fenixius mentions something that we had a section of it, I had written a section of it for this in the script, but ended up cutting it for time, and that is the relationship that all of this has to the practice of Jujinshi, which is a sort of more considered Japanese practice of writing drawing erotic fan art. And there's actually a really good paper that Lindsay Brown mentioned in her piece. If you read that, that is really, really great. And I'll put a link to it in the description, and maybe you'll be able to find it on the internet or get access somehow, because it's about this idea and the importance of it, and sort of digging into it and figuring out how it works and what it is. Yeah, really great. John, I have, and at least from my experience, which is limited, the MLP and CLOP community seems to be both quantitatively and qualitatively different from the erotic Overwatch fan art community. And my guess was always that the fact that Overwatch is mostly humanoid, people, it's people except for Winston and Zenyatta, but that My Little Pony is mostly animals, and so the animalistic nature of that media would make it harder for a lot of, for a contingent of people to find it, you know, effective in some way, but maybe I'm wrong, and I would be curious to know what other people think about this. Destry makes the argument that one of the reasons Overwatch might be so popular in this way is how the characters that we play in Overwatch are not just detached media figures, that they are characters that we play, friends that we have, tools that we use, personalities that we become interested in, and that is particularly unique for them in the fact that they are related to a video game. And I think this is really interesting and an idea that I think I will dig more into. Sort of reminds me of the video we did a while back about controlling versus being your avatar, but then extended to, you know, 3 or 4 more senses. And finally, Noah Siffin points out something that I think is related in a lot of ways to some of the stuff we talked about in our Millennials Are Ruining Everything video, which is the degree to which video games, and of course Overwatch, are geared towards a younger audience, and so have this kind of stink of youth culture on them, and that insofar as youth culture is strongly related to popular culture, that those things are then guided heavily by sex appeal. And so there is a very complicated push and pull and political relationship between a younger audience, the need to be approachable, the return on creating characters that are attractive and have a kind of youthfulness to them. But I think, yeah, this is super insightful.